Hey everybody, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. So this morning, I'd planned to talk about that little spat between Devin Haney and Sylvester Stallone. Those guys are talking about, modern day tough guys versus tough guys back in the day. But that's going to have to wait for another video, because when I was downstairs having my little morning exercise on the treadmill, I watched the Queensberry promotion face-off or face-to-face between Derek Chisora and Otto Wallin. Now, obviously, this was recorded the same day as their press conference, which took place back in November. And it's to promote their upcoming fight on February the 8th in Manchester, UK. And I found myself laughing out loud. Derek Chisora just dominated Otto Wallin in that press conference, and he carried on dominating Otto Wallin in the face-to-face. Now, to be entirely fair, Wallin is not known to be a trash talker. English is his second language, though his English is faultless, really. And perhaps most importantly, he was somewhat jet-lagged. I believe he'd flown in from New York that very day. So those sort of things should be borne in mind. And it was a little different. It wasn't Derek Chisora all sort of beating his chest and being sort of, in Wallin's face. But it was just funny. It was a continuation, really, of the press conference. And, Chisora was sort of peppering Wallin with questions, innocuous stuff, kind of almost like he was playing a good cop, bad cop in himself. He was sort of asking, whereabouts in Sweden, what's your hometown? Oh, right, your birthday was recently, let me shake your hand. And of course, Wallin is, wary of Chisora, because Chisora is just a character, right? And he didn't want to be pulled across the table, and so he didn't want to shake his hand. And there were a few real sort of little gems. But besides it being sort of funny, I actually felt as though Chisora had gained a psychological edge. And at one point, Chisora was peppering Wallin with questions, and Wallin turns to Dev Sarni and said, who's doing the interview here? And Dev Sarni said, you just got to let Chisora go. And so other times Chisora was sort of like, oh, after you had your birthday, you went home? You went home alone? Oh, a good-looking guy like you, and just trying to embarrass Wallin. Wallin was sort of verbally on the back foot all the time, which, of course, is entertaining. And like I say, I'm just, walking on the treadmill, and I found myself laughing out loud, which isn't something I often do when watching, these sort of shows. There's one thing where Chisora was asking Wallin, do you want to be friends? We could be friends. And Wallin was being respectful. It's like, no, I respect you. And Chisora's like, well, I don't really want your respect. Let's be friends. We smoke some weed, go to Five Guys, maybe go to a strip club. And Wallin was like, Otto Wallin comes across as a much more straight-laced kind of guy. When Chisora was asking him, what do you like to do? Wallin was like, play video games and maybe go out for dinner. He's a really nice guy. Whereas Chisora, of course, would be a great character to go out, with. Back in my days when I was a semi-professional drinker, I'm sure I would have had an awesome time with Derek Chisora. These days it would have to be restricted to weed, which I must say is completely and utterly legal in Canada. Just, in case there's anybody, concerned about that. One of the other things, I'm sort of going from memory here, is that Chisora says, I need a blonde friend. Especially now Tyson Fury is bald. Again, it's just like he cracked me up. To be fair, Chisora started the face-off with a nostalgic retrospective of his career. And clearly he's quite emotional about the fact that his career is coming to an end. I mean, this will be his 49th fight. It's going to be his last fight in the UK. There's talk of him having a 50th I've seen 50th against Ngannou in Africa. I mean, none of these things are decided. This particular fight, Chisora and Wallin, would have been funnier if, actually, it would have been most funny if the original opponent for Chisora had been able to take part. I mean, Big Baby Miller and Derek Chisora at a press conference and a face-off would have been comedy gold. I would have, to be honest, I might have worried a little bit about a fight, because I am concerned that Chisora is nearing the end of his career and has taken more hits than he probably ought to have taken. And I'm not thinking that that's going to be a real major concern fighting Otto Wallin, who's, I wouldn't say he's pillow-fisted, but he's not known to be particularly aggressive or hard-hitting. At other times in this face-off, Chisora switched from that good cop about like, oh, what did you have? What was your birthday cake? Oh, it's chocolate mousse. Oh, very nice. To much more the bad cop, and said, hey, look, your performance against AJ was shit. You didn't want to let your hands go. And at one point when AJ hit you, you ran. If the ropes hadn't stopped you, you'd have ran out of the arena. And, it was... Wallin was clearly, again, then sort of, defensive, understandably, right? And all Wallin had in comeback was, are you AJ? But the point had already been made. And then the bit that I kind of liked the most, and you could see that this was a serious thing, and Wallin was sort of blushing a little bit, was they were talking about sparring, because Wallin had been hired as a sparring partner for Chisora's trilogy fight against Tyson Fury. And he went home early. And when Chisora was sort of asking him about, the sparring, Wallin was like, oh, no, what stays in the gym, stays in the gym, correctly. And then the bombshell was dropped. Now, I've no idea if this is true or not, but the bombshell that Chisora dropped was, well, I sent Wallin home early because, he was costing me $10,000 a week. And Wallin was like, what? I only got $1,000 a week in cash. And Chisora turns and he says, sort of sotto voice, he says, oops, me and my big mouth. But it was funny. It was funny as all get out of town. And it had a sort of a bit of needle to it, right? Wallin was saying, well, I don't have a manager anymore, or that I don't have a promoter, I don't know who this was, and he was ducking and diving. But the seed was clearly planted. Wallin was thinking, punk, I've been ripped off here, So again, another ching-ching for Chisora, who just was gaining all these sort of like psychological edges, if such things really matter to professional athletes. Like, as fans, we always look for the edge. I have no idea if it matters really, to a pro athlete. Like, clearly, certain pro athletes, whatever you say, it just bounces off them like pellets off a charging rhino. Alexander Usyk being, the best example. I don't think he would respond to anything that was said to him. I'm sorry. Where other people are clearly a bit more sensitive. Looking at you, AJ. No, people are a little bit more sensitive, and they respond. And of course, Chisora's on that like a rabid dog, right? Oh, talking about dogs. My dogs are barking. The other thing that Chisora tried to draw out of Wallin was, what's your game plan? What are you going to do? And Wallin was, well, you'll find out on the night. And Chisora, God bless him, he went through soup to nuts what he was going to do. I'm walking into the ring, take my robe off, put my gum shield in, walk out, and and then when the bell goes, I'm going to be on you. And of course, that's Chisora's style. I think most of us would agree that, with the exception of a few rounds where Fury was getting into gear, Chisora really did the best job of any heavyweight against Usyk. So that's Chisora's style. Highly entertaining. Dev Sarni had very little work to do, and I strongly recommend you go and see it. It certainly gave me lots of laughs this morning, and I'm still sort of giggling about it right now as I'm making this video. My prediction in this fight, I'm putting money on Chisora. In part, that's pure emotion. I like Chisora. But I also think that Chisora will bring a level of aggression that Wallin is going to struggle to deal with. Wallin, on the other hand, is no slouch. He's a good southpaw. Many people believe he should have stopped Tyson Fury, and a different ref might have well stopped the fight. He didn't do well against AJ, but AJ and Chisora are different guys, of course. There's a size advantage for Otto Wallin, and of course an age advantage. Wallin has just turned 34, where Derek Chisora is going to be 41 by the time the fight takes place. The odds here in Canada are very much in favor of Wallin. He's, Chisora is a big underdog on the bookies' odds here. But I actually think he is going to prevail. I'm putting my money on Chisora. Like I say, mostly that's because I like Chisora emotionally, but also I think he can produce enough to deal with Otto Wallin. And as entertaining as a Miller-Chisora fight would have been, I'm kind of happy that fight didn't take place. I think Derek now needs to exit nicely without taking too many more hits. His speech is a little bit slurry, at least to my ear. So, before I go, the funniest line I remember. So Wallin is sort of looking, and I won't say he was staring, he was looking at Chisora. And Chisora's wearing shades, and he's got his Make America Great hat on. So, it's really hard to see. And he says just something to Wallin, like, stop staring. What are you staring at? You want to, look at me and then go home and have a wank? It was one of those crack me up kind of moments. So, as I say, well worth a watch, highly entertaining, and, full kudos to Queensberry Promotions for uploading the video. So, thank you very much. Please hit like, share, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it when I see the likes and the comments. I love the interaction. I'm not really trying to monetize this channel or anything. This is just a bunch of fans having a virtual conversation. So I like to keep it real, keep it authentic, and have good conversations. I'm already having a few with people who've been kind enough to comment. So thank you to those who take the time to do that. So cheers, wherever you are in the world. Have an awesome day. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.